Hi, everyone, and welcome to another amazing episode of Aging in Action. Today, our conversation is taking place around mental health. As we know, many of us are well aware, on January 25th, tomorrow, Wednesday, is the day of Belle's Let's Talk. And I know this year, our platform is impacting stories and positive change. It was important for us at Aging in Action to bring this topic in today. We wanted to, recognize the importance of conversations. We have always strived to have a strong foundation of healthy conversations and impacting change ourselves personally in our lives as your co-hosts. And we thought today to bring in a couple of wonderful guests. So we'd like to introduce you to Ashley and Victoria. Victoria, I'll let you go first. Welcome to Aging in Action. Introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of background.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I am 38, almost 39 years old. I'm a mother of 3 boys. One will be 13 next month. One will be 4 next month. And the other one will be 10 in October. So it is a great variety of ages and stages that we're dealing with. I work full time. My husband works full time. And we have a lot of obstacles to overcome in our lives. However, we are incredibly blessed and very thankful for all the opportunities we're given.
Well, thank you. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm going to be 28 this year. I am a new mom. I have a almost 2-year-old. He'll be 2 next month. And I'm just living the life of working from home and full-time, as well as my spouse and daycare life. And yeah.
Oh, I tell you, I admire moms nowadays because there's so much on your plate. I mean, there was in our day too. I mean, mine's 30 now, so and 40 plus. So it's a little different, but now having to work out of your home too, that's a whole other issue too. But being full-time employed and full-time moms, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So Ashley, because we'll start with you because you just, Gwen just made a comment about working from home. So what does that look like for you? Like, I work from home also many days and, how do you juggle? How do you do it all?
It's a lot. I mean, right now I just work on my couch. So that's just kind of the life. I don't really have space in my apartment for an office. But I wake up at 5:30, I get myself ready, and then I get my son ready for daycare and I drop him off. And then I come back home and I start my shift. It's a lot. And then the days when he can't go to daycare or we were succumbing a lot of viruses, starting daycare with the low immune system. That was a really big struggle, but I have a great support system with my family and some friends who are always willing to help. So that was a blessing in disguise that I never thought I would have had.
I couldn't imagine. I'm not even going to touch on that one because I think I would just be like, I would be lost, to be honest. I think I would be lost. Victoria, you have 3 boys.
Yes.
What does a day look like for you? When you were telling me the ages, I'm like, oh, that sounds so familiar. And for many that know, my daughter's got 3 kids, full-time parents, sports activities. And I actually get stressed just sometimes looking at the chat of how their day's going. And I'm like, how do they do it? Like, I know we all did it, like Gwen said, and Lisette and myself, but what's it look like for you?
I think the biggest thing is like managing our expectations, right? So realistically, no day is going to be perfect. The older 2, 13 and 10, so they can get themselves up and help with the morning routine, and they walk to school together, which is incredibly helpful. The younger one is in daycare, so that's, us getting him ready and getting him off to daycare before we start our work days because we both work full time. But for sure, the COVID struggle was real, and I think everybody's adjusting to that this year, but it's definitely something like with the homeschooling and working from home and all those dynamics, there was tons of obstacles. I think Ashley was right in saying like your support system is key, whatever that looks like for you. If you're blessed to have family and friends nearby, that's amazing. If there's community supports, that's super helpful. But it's busy. I mean, life is busy for all of us. You throw kids in the mix who are unpredictable on the best of days, it definitely gets complicated.
Yeah. One word you said Victoria, was expectations. And what it went through my brain is when you look at social media, for instance, and you see these perfect lives out there, do you feel like a lot of burden? Either one of you could talk about that, but do you feel like you've got these expectations to be a perfect mom, a perfect worker, a perfect person? Do you feel a pressure there?
I think there's a lot of expectations for us as parents and even for the kids, right? Like there's social media is there for everybody, and absolutely that perfect ideal family is what we all maybe want to be, but not really. It's interesting. I had a conversation with my 13-year-old this weekend. We had a very open dialogue because he was quite upset with me.
13, oh my God.
At the end of it, I was brutally honest. We said, you know what, I've never parented a child your age before. You don't come with a rule book. I don't know what you're expecting. I don't know what I'm expecting, but I love you. I'm doing my best. I will show you the same respect you show me. Let's figure it out together. And I think that's it. Like, ideally, sure, we want to have the best weekend and do all the fun things and have no blips in the radar, but that's not real. And so being aware of, things change, and we definitely celebrate the good moments, but we're aware that the obstacles are real.
Yes, that's a good point, actually. The challenges are there, I think, for any parent today or spouse, wife. It's a new world. Ashley, do you have any things that you find that is your safe space that you go to if it gets a day of too much? I know you're a huge social media. Do you have, I don't know, a group or a following where you're like, you know what, this is me time, like a mindfulness, an app, anything that helps on those days?
I've actually just started going back to the gym. So that's been a lot of fun and a lot of a chance to burn all the energy and the anger and frustration I might feel. Lifting weights has been really fun. But yeah, my social media page is definitely my go-to. I've been doing a lot of events and attending tons of stuff that are of my interest. So that's been a great change to my life to make my days easier and something to look forward to when, sometimes I might have had a bad week. An event would be fun to get my mind in a different space.
That's true.
Yeah,
I think I agree. Exercise has been pretty key for us. It's funny, all three of my kids are old enough to tell me now, and they'll say, Mom, you need to go do some yoga. I'm like, thanks. I need to do some yoga. You guys can go play. But getting outside too, like even when they were younger, I mean, all of them, different activities and things like that. But we find being outside and just going for a walk this time of year, snowshoeing or tobogganing for sure is good for us. But if I can get out myself, or like my spouse, he'll take a break, and same with the kids, everybody getting some exercise is really beneficial too, just clearing your head and being able to regroup, right, and deal with whatever it is that's overwhelming at the moment.
Yeah, my son has remarked to me, we had this huge project outside, plus I do a lot of gardening. He says, Mom, when you're outside, you smile. Sorry, but I find it an outlet. Physical labor, I guess, because so much of my job isn't that type of, and just getting out in the dirt and digging, whatever, and plants or whatever. It just totally, you're right about getting to the gym and wanting to lift weights or take out your frustration on things, because I guess that's what it was. And I just, enjoyed it. So it helps when you got a rough day. Yeah.
Go ahead, Lisette.
Oh, I was just going to say, I know, there's so many changes that has gone on in the past few years now. There's families out there doing homeschooling. There's families that their children are back in school. Victoria, I'm assuming your children are in school, like in classroom. So I have to ask, was that a hard transition for them? I'm assuming they did homeschooling, right, during COVID, like everybody else. And then the day came, you brought them, you sent them back to school. How did that go over?
It was very, very challenging for everybody involved. I mean, for the physical space, like when we're talking about for us working from home and creating a space where you can accomplish your goals, and then also for them to have their own space to do their task, right? So my boys were in 2 separate rooms, like in their bedrooms or in the dining room downstairs, doing their thing, but then I have a toddler running back and forth wanting to play with them and do all of that jazz. And then when they went back into the classroom, it was totally different for everybody. Now we're all up and out in the morning, we don't see each other till the end of the day, and reintegrating with your peers, right? You went from seeing people, I mean, we tried to do outdoor activities what was allowed within the confines of the rules, but back into the classroom and getting into that routine was a big transition. I think it was beneficial for my kids anyways to have that structure again, because the kind of unknown that went along with the in and out of the school system with the changes in COVID was very overwhelming for everybody. And interestingly enough, even my toddler, there was a big switch because he started, everybody was wearing masks. So he very much responds to your tone of voice and your eye contact. That's how he communicates right now. And so he will say, like, look at me, you're not listening. And I'm like, I'm listening. I don't have to be looking. I'm making dinner. But that's how he learned. And now everybody has their masks off and we're all in our world back to normal. For him, it's a new normal, right? So the older ones went back to their routine. The younger ones learned a whole new routine. So it's been a big change for everybody.
Ashley, did that also impact you being, little one comes into the world, you're at home in that environment because we're all at home at that time. And then you're moving into that daycare element. Was that also something that you had to be challenged with, as how do I integrate a little guy at home watching, learning channel and then moving into interaction with others?
For me, I didn't want to have a typical COVID baby, as people say, because he was born mid-COVID 2021. It was a lot, and I wanted him to have the same social aspects as everyone else. So I made a point actually to get along and make new friends. And I met a lot of people while I was on mat leave who had kids around the same age. And I think that made a huge difference in his social skills and in him not living the same COVID typical lifestyle of seeing everyone with masks all the time. But yeah, the masks was definitely, like, he always tries to rip it off my face or pulling it down. And, he doesn't understand to say like, oh no, that needs to stay. Yeah.
One of the things, I wrote an article recently about optimism because there's so much negativity out in the world right now, and we're inundated by it, all kinds of, from all directions. Like, how do you find that you can help your kids to be optimistic? Like, I know when I get overwhelmed by all the negativity, I just basically have to stop and just take one baby step forward and try to move through that. Otherwise, I probably would curl up in a ball and stay under the covers. So with all of that bombarding you and your kids, how do you try to stay optimistic about the world in general?
My oldest actually went through challenges with anxiety. It started pre-COVID, definitely heightened during COVID. And so we did a lot of the therapy, meditation, yoga, breathing exercises. I did it for myself. I did it with him. We did it as a family. And interestingly enough, my toddler came home from daycare, and when he was crying and I'd say, take a deep breath, he literally went, and I'm like, wow, they're practicing this in daycare, which is really interesting. One of the things that we did together was a gratitude book. So it was like different things each day. And one of the ones that we could all do was what makes you smile. And my 3-year-old, now turning 4, will say, Mommy, you smile when I cuddle you, right? And so even from little, like 2 years old, he understood that when it's overwhelming, physical contact, like spending time cuddling, I mean, activities, sure, but like supporting one another. And for him, cuddling is the thing that keeps him grounded and everything's right in his world. So I think just that optimistic, like, hopefully love is greater than fear in each situation that we're in, whether we talk about it or we just show it with whatever our affection is to one another.
I think for, when I look back, when we talked today about the challenges presented in mental health, back when I was growing up, it was behind closed doors. You didn't discuss mental health. You didn't discuss the challenges presented. Heaven forbid anybody had a problem, right? That was shared and discussed outside of the home. I think today's it's a different world. We're recognizing different challenges, maybe in the workplace. And it's important to know how to move those conversations over healthy also, right? Without, I don't know, adding wood to the fire or, causing anyone to feel that we're demeaning, where it's like, I guess constructive criticism has also become a huge way of having conversations, may it be family, friends. I know personally for myself, that's a big burden, right? Because I've always, with everything I've done, I've always tried to be positive, right? Dragonfly was always about helping others and being there in the time of need. Then the pandemic happened, and then all of a sudden we couldn't be there, right? We weren't deemed essential. And it was hard to stay positive with the change. I don't know, Lisette, if you've seen that, and Gwen, in the business world as we grew over this last few years, but I know for myself, it wasn't something I was taught growing up, how to have those conversations. So all of a sudden I was learning a new skill set in my 50s, and I found that challenging.
We were taught, suck it up.
Suck it up, buttercup.
And you don't talk outside of the house about your problems, whatever they are, right?
I found over the past few years dealing with our clients, and you know what I mean? So many people that we help, their families are in crisis, right? Like, so the anger that has come through our phone system and like my office staff, I felt, or I feel, they were rock stars during all of this, because the amount of times that they would get screamed at, for not our doing, you know what I mean? As simple as, one of their favorite caregivers had COVID and couldn't attend their mother. And then we would get screamed at every time the daughter would call, right? And I think there's a lot of anger out there. And I think that people need to, we need to start taking a breath, right? Take a breath. And I find I've lived by, and don't stress out over something you can't control.
Right.
So whenever I run into a situation where, I'm just like, oh my God, I think about it. Can I change it? Is there anything I can do about it right now? And if it's beyond my control, I think my survival through this whole thing was, well, then I just have to let it go. It doesn't matter what it is, but if I can't control it, and if you try to control things, that's a lot of times where, I die of a heart attack, right? This stress that you just mount, right? And back to, with your children, you just day by day, it's not perfect days, but you have to decide what you can and can't control and just move on, right? It doesn't help to scream at somebody or right, lashing out, right?
What, you mean I can't yell at my kids? We're not real welcome. Will they listen? Probably not.
Yeah, you're right about
I think
the
that's
anger.
where the conversation shifted for us. It was like, we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to go through the most survival mode. And I say that with a little bit of background there. So my husband had cancer when I just had the older two boys, and it was very serious. And we all went through a lot of trauma. And in all those moments, it was like we weren't talking about our feelings. We weren't dealing with the worry and the fear and definitely the anger that we were all dealing with. And now everyone is thankfully healthy. And our conversation now is it's okay to be upset about things. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be angry, or whatever emotions you're feeling, they're yours. And I'm not going to try and explain them away. You can feel that way, but they're also not permanent. Everything is changing and everything will be different tomorrow. So I'm here for you. I support you in those moments. Sometimes it sucks. Like, we can say that. It's very unfortunate that you can't be where you want to be or with the people you want to be with, or, have the ideal day. But ultimately tomorrow's a new day, and hopefully it will be better and we'll get through it together. I think that was the biggest thing about the Bell Let's Talk and the mental health component, was having that support. And as Ashley mentioned, in the community, those supports, finding your people that you can understand. You all had a difficult day at work, you all got screamed at, or you're all new moms and you're all dealing with nobody sleeping at night and my kid's always sick. And it's quote unquote normal that we're all overwhelmed from time to time. But again, it'll be different tomorrow, and we'll be there to help each other through it, right?
Absolutely. And I think you're right, Lisette and Ashley, Vicki, and Gwen, we only can control what's today. I know for myself, having a diagnosis, traveling, it gets overwhelming. There's some days, I remind myself, I'm allowed to have that pity party, right? I'll have that pity party. Then I'm going to pick up my big burl of panties and I'm going to move on. And it's going to suck for some days, and some days will be better than others. But at the end of the day, all I can do is control today. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. And I think that's the part for many of us, is we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Like Lisette just mentioned, having a car accident, anything can happen in our world. But when I wake up that today, I'm in control of today. So, I can have those moments of insanity. I can have those moments where I'm overwhelmed, and it's okay to not be okay. I think that's the one thing we're all learning. I wish I would have learned that back when I was first starting to be a parent. Right? It was okay not to know. It was okay not to be okay. As you mentioned, there's no rule book. I think that's the one thing with that, we recognize that today for tomorrow, for the bell, let's talk, like, the motto, let's change this. But I think it's something we need to do every day. Like Lisette mentioned with her staff, right? It's an everyday process. And each day we need to know that it's okay to ask for help when we need help, right? No, it's okay to be there for someone in need. Let them have those moments. And then, you know what? We breathe and we will get through it together. But it takes, like you say, a village. It's not just one.
Well, and that's one reason I have also, of course, as we change through our lives, I try to avoid toxic people and negative people. There's some you can't just make them disappear because they're part of your family or something. But I find now I can control who I interact with. So yeah, and when you mentioned, Ashley, about reaching out to groups that make you feel good, right? That add something to your life. I think that's so important. So I have tried to avoid. I mean, we all have to interact with toxic people, angry people, but I don't really want them in my sphere if I can help it. So I just go next, and there's always somebody standing behind them that is a person who's going to add to my life. And it took me a long time, especially in business. When you first start your business, you go after everything, right? But then you learn who is going to add to give you a quality business and who isn't. So yeah, I totally, because the control freak in me struggles every day. It's hard. I can't control other people, I realize.
Well, and I think also to be honest, I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago.
No,
I was the pleaser. I'd be like, yeah, you need me to do it. No problem. I say no. No's in my vocabulary today. Yeah. It took me a long time to figure out how to say no, but no's in my vocabulary. Yeah. And it was not in the past. I'd be like, yeah, you need, sure, no problem. But today I recognize that I have to put myself first. If I don't, and I fail, or I'm unsuccessful in my mental health, then it impacts others around me. So I need to be in control of me. And I think that is probably the biggest hurdle that I've actually learned over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. As we go into the last couple of minutes of this episode today, I know, as I said, ladies, it goes fast. Is there any last words, Ashley, Victoria, you want to add? Anything that you find is really a cool element that you use that maybe a viewer or listener could, bring into their circle? Go ahead.
Sorry, I just didn't know she was going to talk.
No, that's okay.
I personally think that social media, as much as people think that it's not the best thing, there's so much support on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere where you can think. There are so many pages and groups. Excuse me if you hear my dog. I'm just gonna push over. She's joking. There's so many groups and Facebook pages that like mom support, or just in general for any issues you might have in your life. Even just a quick search can be so big on finding people who are dealing with the same things as you are. A big one for me was when I was pregnant, there was a group for babies born in February 2021, which was my due date, and it was perfect. And that was a massive, massive help for me, pregnant during COVID, not being able to see anyone, and having people who relate to the same exact things that I'm going to, as they're the same farness along in their pregnancy and in their life. So that was just a huge support and help for that.
Well, thanks, Ashley. Victoria?
Awesome. I agree. I think staying connected, opening that communication, and like you mentioned, it's not just today, right? Like Bell Let's Talk absolutely reminds us to keep that communication open and reach out to those supports in our lives, but it's all the time. I found one of the biggest things is like just checking in on people. It doesn't necessarily have to be every day, but like tomorrow it's like, okay, everybody text each other and make sure everybody's good. And then we don't for a while. And to me, it's the times where like, you know, you realized I wasn't at work today, you checked in to see how I was feeling, if I needed anything, or you noticed my kid wasn't at daycare. And, you know, the next time we're there, it's, hey, how's everyone feeling? Is everybody in your household healthy? Because it goes through the cycles, right? So just checking in on one another and staying connected, I think, throughout the year is key.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us today on Aging in Action and sharing your journey. We do appreciate your time. Again, we had a wonderful day of storytelling. And as we mentioned, mental health is real and it's here and it impacts each and every one of us, may it be in present or behind closed doors. So we appreciate our Bell Let's Talk. I know that the motto right now is let's change this. So we're starting out a little early ourselves today with, we're just going to take one day at a time, but we're going to change this, open the conversation. Thank you everyone for joining us today on Aging in Action. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you. Until next time.